What's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com. And today I am once again joined by Michael Darcy of KC Sports Report. And we are going to be previewing the Kansas City Chiefs versus Buffalo Bills AFC Divisional Round game. And as we inch closer to this game, I'm getting more and more nervous. But I still have a subtle confidence in them. I really do. But I'll go ahead and ask you, Michael, how are you doing today? And what are your feelings now that we're getting really close to this game?
Well, first of all, I'm doing fantastic. I always love being on your channel. But, this game, it seems like the nerves just aren't going to go away because I've been of the opinion that whoever wins this game is going to go to the Super Bowl. So that's kind of why I think this game is so nerve-wracking. But I think it's also just a matchup thing. The Buffalo Bills match up really well with the Kansas City Chiefs. They built their team to beat us. And I think that, Buffalo kind of got their revenge in week 5, but I'm not sure how that's going to carry over to this week. Like the Chiefs are just as hungry, if not more hungry. And, if there's a team in the playoffs that I'm not going to bet against, it's a Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs team. He's lost twice, and both times with a Tom Brady. He doesn't just lose in the playoffs. So, right. But I do think it's going to be a good game, and this could be easily the best game of the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the Chiefs having home field advantage is absolutely huge in this game. If it's played in Buffalo, I definitely don't feel as good as I do. Being at home is absolutely massive. And, like you said, I'm nervous, but you don't really bet against the Chiefs a ton. And even though that week 5 game was so long ago and the dynamic has really changed for both of these teams. I keep saying that, you can't really take anything from that week 5 game because, just so many things are different from then. Yet I keep finding myself bringing up that week 5 game. Yeah. But, I kind of agree with you. You were saying last night, or I don't know if you recorded it with Blake last night. I saw your preview you did with him, and I really liked a lot of the things you guys said. But starting out with the Chiefs offense, I agreed with what you guys were kind of saying, and that the Bills defense isn't really if you look at their numbers, they're like number 1 in like EPA per play and all this stuff. But they played some really mediocre offenses this year. And the Chiefs offense has obviously stepped up their game since that week 5 matchup. And everyone keeps talking about how great the Bills were against the Patriots. Is everyone just forgetting that the Chiefs scored a touchdown on 7 straight drives against the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's nothing to, forget. So I definitely think the Bills defense is going to have much more of a challenge in this game than what they've been used to all year.
Well, and everyone talks about, the Chiefs don't look that good this year. The Chiefs they're broken. The Buffalo Bills have really bad losses. Like the Chiefs have lost, but at least they've lost to AFC playoff teams. They didn't lose to the Jags. The Buffalo Bills had some times where you seriously questioned or not whether they were a competent football team. And the Chiefs were bad, but they were never that bad. But
right.
I think, and I brought up this point in the preview with Blake, I think the Buffalo Bills came into this Patriots game. That's their most hated rival. It'd be like if the Chiefs played against the Broncos in the playoffs.
Sure.
You're going to try to absolutely impose your will on them. And if the Broncos and Chiefs met in the playoffs next year, the Chiefs have beaten them 13 straight times. They are going to want to run up the score, and that is their Super Bowl. That right there, beating a divisional opponent in a big-time playoff game, a divisional opponent that they've owned. The Patriots have owned the Buffalo Bills for 20 years. And so when the Bills finally had that shot and their team was just better, it resulted in the beatdown in which we saw.
Right. And I also think that the Bills were pouring it on the Patriots even way after that game was over. But something I said to you at the beginning of this postseason that I still feel is that the Bills are the number 1 team that I think were the worst matchup for the Chiefs in the postseason. Maybe not the best team the Chiefs will face in the postseason. Well, maybe depends on how you feel about the Bengals. Some people might lean Bengals, or some people are still, fond Titans. But, I always said to you that the Bills are the number one team I would not want to see. And now we're going to see them, which is why I'm nervous this game, because we've seen the Bills are capable of beating the Chiefs, like, because they've done it. We saw that. But since then, they've made so many changes too. Like Dan Sorensen is not playing the same role he was in that Bills game. Willie Gay is now back and healthy. And you know what? Actually, I'm just going to talk about Willie Gay real quick.
We probably
Since,
should talk about that.
He's kind of like he's kind of the elephant in the room. I don't want to just say, oh, Willie Gay, and not mention what happened with him. He's going to play. Andy Reid said he's going to play. And it's funny because if you watch the press conference, one of the reporters asked him, how did you come to the decision Willie Gay will play? And he goes, I decided that he will play. And that was his answer. And that was hilarious to me. And I think you also mentioned this with Blake Schneiders on your show. And that's, I mean, we have so many players this year that have gotten felony charges, that, including one on the Chiefs, Frank Clark. They've gotten felony charges, they've gotten DUIs, and they've played the very next game. So barring a unexpected coaching decision, Willie Gay is going to play in this game, and they need Willie Gay to play in this game.
He might be the most important piece on defense, like legitimately, because, Chris Jones is great, but if Josh Allen gets by Chris Jones, Willie Gay has the athleticism to go and track him down, and they're going to need that on Sunday. But really quickly, I was watching some tape from that Week 5 game because I was like, we lost really bad, obviously, by the final score, but I wanted to see kind of where it went wrong and what the Bills did. Josh Allen didn't run the football. Like, he stayed in the pocket, and a lot of it could be just chalked up to the Chiefs making a lot of their own mistakes. They had 4 turnovers. The Buffalo Bills had none. And Dan Sorensen giving up 2 touchdowns to Dawson Knox and the pick 6. And if you take those things away, it's a much closer game. Like, the Chiefs aren't going to give up, at least I don't think they're going to give up any cheap touchdowns. The Buffalo Bills are going to have to go down there and earn it.
Yeah, I agree. And I was, getting ready to say that before we stopped to talk about Willie Gay for a second. The Chiefs have changed so much, especially on defense. They added Melvin Ingram. They also did not have Chris Jones for that Bills game. And Chris Jones is a matchup I'm sure the Bills are terrified of. And you mentioned it too. I mean, it's not like the Bills have a great offensive line. They're not known for, overwhelming teams up front. So the Chiefs' defensive line needs to be able to take advantage of in this game. They need to get some pressure on Allen. And I think they can, because I think they have the guys to, where the last time these two teams played, they just didn't have the guys. I mean, Frank Clark was the only name on that line. And that was like Frank Clark's first game back, and he didn't really do anything. The most notable thing he did in that game was the roughing the passer call, which was a really bad call. But yeah, but you also talked about in your show that the Chiefs defense, if we're being honest, it's a little overrated, because some of the tougher offenses they played, they've given up some points, but they're not, so bad like they were at the beginning of the year, historically bad.
Championship with them.
Yes, and it's still probably what I would call the best defense in the Patrick Mahomes era. And because and for that reason, they have a really good chance to win this game.
I think so too. And honestly, I think the Bills are going to really rely on Josh Allen. That might not seem like much of a surprise, but I think this game is going to come down to which quarterback makes the big time plays and which defense steps up. Like, the Chiefs defense goes on a few stretches where they will allow some yards. They'll allow some points. But for whatever reason, we saw it in the Chargers game with a minute left when they gave the ball to Justin Herbert. They stopped him. They stop a lot of these, like the Broncos getting that big time stop. They make big time plays when the game is really on the line. And I would almost rather have that than a defense that looks great but can't do anything when the moment is really important.
Yeah, and they had that experience too. They've been on these deep runs, and they've been in situations where they need to come up big, or they start slow and they need to catch up. And a lot of us count them out, and then they prove us wrong every single time. And I know we've even said that the Chiefs can't do what they did against the Steelers and expect to win this game. And while I mostly agree with that, because I think if they start slow against the Bills, things are going to be tough. At the same time, it's like, but are they really ever out of it?
That's the thing. Like, everyone has said this for the longest time. The Chiefs come back in playoff games. Like, maybe every single playoff game they've won, they've been down in what point? Like, they were down to the Bills earlier in the playoff game last year, and they came roaring back. So maybe getting down a touchdown would be a good thing.
Yeah, obviously you want to start out great, but if they don't, I'm not going to say the Bills run away with this thing, especially in Arrowhead. Like I said, I think the Arrowhead factor is something people haven't talked enough about this week, and they really need to account for. Like, this game is going to be in Arrowhead. It's not be in Buffalo. The crowd is going to be behind the Chiefs. I think the energy from the crowd is really going to help the defense in this game as well.
Easily, yeah. And the Chiefs defense plays better at home. They feed off of that energy because it is so loud in that building. And it's going to be hard for the Bills offense to function at a normal rate because it is going to be so loud.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I really want the Bengals to come to this Titans game, is because if they do and the Chiefs move on, then they're going to host the Bengals, whereas the Chiefs would have to go to Tennessee and play. And I think part of the reason that the Chiefs defense didn't perform well against Cincinnati, not just because Spags called some really, just unideal defensive looks, but also because the crowd wasn't into the game for the Chiefs. They were there for the Bengals. But shifting the focus back to this Bills game, I think something that's really frustrated me is that everyone seems to be against the Chiefs, like national media, a lot of the fans. I don't know where the hate came from. I don't know why they do this every single time. And people like to say that Chiefs fans are just being sensitive, or that, they're looking for, they want to be the underdog. They're looking for any kind of bulletin material, but you don't even have to look for it. Like, it is everywhere. Like, I see a bunch of people picking the Bills for this game. There was something on NFL Network this morning where they asked all the analysts who their pick for the game was, and every single one of them picked the Bills. And it's like, the disrespect is so rampant. And you got to wonder if the Chiefs are looking at this and they're using this as fuel, and they just go out there and crush the Bills.
I have no clue where this hate for the Chiefs come from. Like, and a lot of people hate the Chiefs because of Jackson Mahomes, which is really weird because I put that thing on Twitter, like, Josh Allen is good, Patrick Mahomes is great. And everyone's like, well, at least Josh Allen doesn't have a brother that's an idiot. It's like, okay, well, you just lost the argument because you had to
even his wife. Even his wife.
Like,
I saw a bunch of people talking, a bunch of Bills fans, outspoken Bills fans, like, going at his family, talking about his kid. I'm like, guys, it is not that deep. And I really don't care what Patrick and his family are like outside of football. Like, who cares?
It's a weird, like, fascination with it, which is, that's really weird. Go worry about your own family. But I think the hate for the Chiefs it's just so weird because, I feel like in 2019 and definitely in 2020, they tried to, like, feel like the underdogs because, like, everyone doubts us that we can't get back there. This is the most doubted Chiefs team that I can remember. Like, this team has been to 2 straight Super Bowls, and yet no one thinks that they can have a chance to beat the Bills.
Yeah, and part of it too is because of that portion earlier in the season where they started out rough, and it seems like people are, like, struggling to let go of that in their mind when it's like, guys, the Chiefs won their last 11 games. Like, have you been watching recently? And that same time, the Bills have looked a lot worse, a lot more often. We just talked about it. They lost the Jaguars. Why am I talking about that? It's always what the Chiefs have or haven't done. I don't get it.
I mean, we're the standard. We are what the Buffalo Bills strive for. They haven't done what they're trying to accomplish yet. We have. And I think we are the big obstacle in their way. But right now, the media is trying to portray it like the Bills are the obstacle in the road when they're not. Like, I don't care who you are. When the Patriots were even going through some of those down years where they had, like, they won the 3 rings and then they kind of took a little bit of a break and then they won the 3 again later. When they were in the playoffs, they were still the team to beat. You know what I mean? Like, they earned the respect. What more do the Chiefs have to do to earn the respect? They've been to the past 2 Super Bowls, and they've hosted 3 AFC championship games in a row.
Well, and a lot of the reason they got that respect from people was because of who the quarterback was. And that's why the hate is still so weird to me, is that the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, who, like, I'm not going to pull back. Like, since he's became starter, has played much better really in that stretch than Tom Brady ever did in his career. Yet they don't give Patrick Mahomes the same attention, or they don't weigh him as much of a factor as they did for Tom Brady. And it's like, I saw Chris of Pro Football Talk tweet out that Allen has been better than Mahomes the last 2 years. Based on what? He hasn't been to it, or he hasn't won an AFC championship game. He hasn't been to a Super Bowl. He hasn't won a Super Bowl. And if you're going by numbers, Patrick Mahomes has been better than Josh Allen the last 2 years too. The only department in which Josh Allen can, hang over Patrick Mahomes is rushing yards. And that's because Josh Allen's a running quarterback and he carries the ball more than Mahomes. In what way has Josh Allen been better than Patrick Mahomes? He hasn't.
If you went into a room and you're like, all right, so let's start a franchise. We need a quarterback. No one in their right mind would pick Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes. And I like Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback in this game.
I stuck with him. I stuck with him when everyone said he wasn't the answer in Buffalo, because I remember there was that one year where everyone was wanting to move on from him. They were ready to move on just like that.
That's another thing. Josh Allen was terrible in his first couple of years in Buffalo.
Yeah, and I liked him. Terrible. It's weird.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like, if you asked anyone who are you going to start a franchise with, no one would say Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes. Like, how can you in your right mind say that Josh Allen is greater or better than Patrick Mahomes when Mahomes' stat line's been better, when he's beat him in the biggest game, and he's won a Super Bowl? Josh Allen's never even won an MVP. Like, if he gets an MVP, then maybe we could have that discussion. The media is trying to do the same thing with Josh Allen like they did with Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson will never even be in the same stratosphere as Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen, they feel like he has the best shot. And so that's why they're kind of riding with him. But I saw this on Twitter. It's just like, is this the next Brady Manning rivalry? They said it about 4 different quarterbacks against Patrick Mahomes. Is Justin
They said Herbert it with Herbert, Watson, Jackson. And notice how quickly all of those stopped after Patrick Mahomes just kept beating those guys.
Yeah. In the biggest games, Patrick Mahomes beats his competition. Like, you know that that meme that NFL memes put out where it was like the Ninja Turtles with like, this could sound really weird, but we're like what's the set, like the sensei is like has his arms around the turtles and they're walking, and they they said that Mahomes is kind of getting schooled by like the Herberts and the Burrows and the Allens of the world, and it's weird how quickly things like changed in 8 weeks. But that was a very obscure reference, so I don't know if you got that.
No, it took me a second, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It was like there was the leader, and then there was the guys like following him, and Mahomes was the leader. Then he wasn't. Now he is again. But yeah, so I just wanted to get that banter out of the way. Looking at the game though, so Michael, offensively, what's your game plan against Buffalo? What do you think the Chiefs have to do? I mean, you said you rewatched the game. There was obviously some things you probably didn't like in there. What do they need to do better this time? And how would you attack the Buffalo Bills defense?
Well, they need to not turn the ball over, first of all. That's the biggest key, because if you lose the turnover battle, it's just that much harder to win this game. Yeah. Tre'Davious White is not going to be playing in this game for the Buffalo Bills. He's been on IR for the longest time. I think he tore his ACL. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big, substantial loss. But honestly, I think that what I saw in the first game is he only got like 1 attempt, but Jerick McKinnon showed flashes even like when he wasn't playing a lot. I think the move should be to go right at Jerick McKinnon, because once you get one of those LBs to come over and guard Jerick, so he's in double coverage, then you can throw it to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, who's going to be like wide open. Like, the Chiefs need to make it so they're attacking the middle of the field, but also take those dump offs, because Jerick McKinnon can take a dump off and turn it into 30+ yards. I want to see him just run down the field and turn some of those just plays where you didn't really think he was going to get that much into big time gains.
Well, I was actually going to ask you after that, how would you divide up the running back touches between all the guys the Chiefs have? So how would you divide them up?
I really only want to see 2 running backs. I want to see Damien. I want to see Darryl and Jerick. That's all I really want to see. Because, Clyde, like, maybe you are the guy moving forward, but right now you don't go against the hot hand. It's kind of like in basketball when a guy's shooting really well from behind the arc. You feed him the ball because he's just making it. Right now, it's Jerick McKinnon. He was arguably, with last week's performance against the Steelers, that was the best performance we've seen all year in what he was able to do running the ball and in the passing game. I want to see Jerick and Darrell because I think that those two guys give you the best chance to win. And honestly, this could sound harsh, but I wouldn't even mind shutting Clyde down for the year. Like, what's the point? What is he going to add if he comes back?
Yeah, well, if he comes back, I think you're only taking away touches from McKinnon, and that's just not what I want, because McKinnon has earned what he's able to do now. And I agree with you. You know, the dump offs that he can take to the house, you know, if the blocking is there and everything, like that's just a threat the other Chiefs running backs do not give. And you're in postseason football. If you have a chance to score, you got to go with McKinnon because McKinnon gives you the best chance to convert and score. He's got that home run type of ability. He can also still get tough yards. Like I've mentioned before, he's like the slimmest running back of all the guys, but he can put his head down and truck guys. Like
he averaged 6 yards a carry.
Yeah.
6 yards a carry. Like that is absurd. And I think that honestly, the Bills are going to get to a point where they literally cannot guard everybody. Now, I think that, I think the Chiefs are going to have to do a really good job of converting on the first two downs because I don't want to get in those third and long situations when Mahomes is going to have to try to pull something out of nothing and the Bills are going to bring pressure. I don't want to see that. I really don't. I think you got to convert on first and second downs. And if you do get to fourth down and it's in a manageable situation, if you're at the 50-yard line and it's 4th and 2, I think you got to go for it every single time. This is the kind of aggressiveness that we saw in last year's AFC Championship game from Andy Reid that we didn't see from Sean McDermott. Do you remember that they kicked a couple field goals when if they would have gone for touchdowns, the game might have been different?
Yeah, I remember that exactly. And I remember a bunch of people were being like, you can't kick field goals against Kansas City. You just can't.
And it still holds true. Like if you kick field goals in this game, you will not win. Like that's just point blank period. You cannot do that and expect to win. But I think that the Chiefs are going to have to at least score 35 points to win this game. Because I think Buffalo and Kansas City are going to put up points. I think this is going to be an offensive game and the defenses are just kind of there. And whichever one makes the final stop is the team that's probably going to win this game.
Well, I'll ask you then. Which defense are you more confident in to get that last final stop that their team needs? Putting you on the spot.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs, not trying to sound like a homer. I'm going to go with the Chiefs for one reason. I think it's easier to stop Josh Allen on the money down than it is to stop Patrick Mahomes. Just because the offensive playbook of Kansas City is significantly better. Mahomes is just clutcher than Josh Allen. I don't care what anybody says. And Mahomes on any down is hard to stop. When he has to get that first down, he might not even have to throw it. He'll just take it himself. Like that's, I think, the key, at least in this situation. I think Josh Allen's good, but I would give our defense a better chance of stopping him on fourth down than the Bills' defense of stopping the best quarterback on the planet on fourth down.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rule out Andy trying anything tricky too. I also want to go back to something you said, though, too, about going forward on fourth down with the Bills. I also think the Chiefs need to really consider that because it didn't hurt them against the Steelers because they were worse competition. But I remember early in the game when the Chiefs were struggling, it was like 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, just past midfield for the Chiefs offense. And Mahomes wanted to go for it. He was like, come on, let's go. And Andy's like, no, I'm sorry. But if Patrick Mahomes, the franchise quarterback, wants to go for it on fourth down in a playoff game, you need to let him go for it. Every single other head coach would give their star quarterback, that freedom. You always see Herbert always gets to call the shots there. Lamar Jackson always gets to call the shots there. I would love to see Andy give Mahomes a little bit of a longer leash and go for it on those fourth downs because this still applies to the Chiefs too. They need to not settle for field goals in this game. They need to go for it every chance they get. And then what I was going to say, if the game goes down to the wire, like remember against the Browns in the divisional game last year, where the Browns thought the Chiefs were just going to kind of draw him off sides on 4th down. And then Chad Henne went into shotgun and actually took the snap. And I don't think the Browns were expecting him to take the snap. Quick throw to Tyreek Hill, and the game's over. I wonder if we could see something like that if it comes down to it.
Honestly, something that I want to see more than anything, and honestly, maybe not in this game because it just wouldn't make sense. But if we did get to the Super Bowl, run a quarterback sneak for God's sakes. Mahomes got hurt on a freak play in Denver where it just so happened that it was a quarterback sneak. If Andy Reid called that, Patrick Mahomes would want to do that, first of all. No one in their right mind would expect it coming. Literally no one. They have not run that play since Denver in 2019. So eventually you're going to have to run a QB sneak. It's statistically one of the safest plays in football that just he so happened to get hurt on. You need to run the quarterback sneak. And if you don't run the quarterback sneak, I love those direct snaps to Kelsey because Kelsey's so big and strong and he's just going to get the first down. But kind of like we saw really quickly, kind of like we saw against the Steelers last week with Mecole trying to take the Wildcat snap in the hand. Don't fool around with that. Just go to the guys that you know are consistent.
Well, I was going to say that, it's been so long since they've ran a QB sneak that I think teams have just kind of like ruled out that Mahomes was ever going to take a sneak. But it's a high enough stakes game that where like if you needed to run a sneak with Mahomes, like it's a situation where a QB sneak would make sense. Go for it now because the defense probably isn't going to expect Mahomes to sneak it because you don't. The Chiefs don't do QB sneaks with Mahomes.
It would be the last thing that they would be looking for. But I will say I would use it in the red zone. If you're in a goal line situation, that's where I want to see it because that would catch the defense completely off guard because usually Mahomes will try to roll out to his left or right and either like underhand shovel pass or just find some way to throw it in. But if he just took it himself and maybe leaped into the end zone, no one would expect that. Like no one at all.
Absolutely. Also, I think the Chiefs' star pass catchers in this game, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, need to play better than they did against the Buffalo Bills. Neither of those guys had a great day against Buffalo. Tyreek Hill also had a crucial drop that went right through his hands, and the Bills were able to get 6 points off that. No more of that. That cannot happen in this game. And I think the Chiefs' secondary and other depth receivers have stepped up since that Buffalo game. We so desperately wanted someone to just be fine, nothing special. Just don't be bad, be fine, be a good player in your role. I think Mecole, DeMarcus, and Pringle, they all fit that description, and that's exactly what they did against Pittsburgh. And they're now guys that I think the Chiefs can comfortably utilize in this game if Kelce and Hill aren't having a great day. And I actually think they will because both of those guys had insane games against Buffalo the last time these guys played. And now there's no Tre'Davious White there to shadow, Tyreek Hill for a bunch of snaps. Tre'Davious White is a huge piece to their defense, and he will not be playing in this game.
He's an all-pro guy.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, that Pittsburgh game was a perfect opportunity to kind of see what you have in those weapons. And I would not be mad whatsoever if right away in this game you went to Byron Pringle or DeMarcus Robinson or Mecole Hardman or Jerick McKinnon. You went to them right away because then the defense is going to be like, oh, shoot, they're throwing to these guys. And once they slip up, once they bring somebody in the box, once they try to cover the running back, Tyreek is going to be open. Travis Kelce is going to be open. And this just comes back to they can't stop everybody. So if you force them to come stop Jerick McKinnon, they're not going to be able to stop Byron Pringle. And if they bring up somebody to stop Byron Pringle, they can't stop Travis Kelce. It's just going to be this revolving door, so to speak. And I trust the Chiefs' weapons in this game.
RPOs with Jerick McKinnon all day because I think the defense actually expect the threat of McKinnon running much more than they do Clyde. And when they do, and they start to crash down to try and cover McKinnon, whatever he's going to do, boom, like you said, Hill is the perfect guy to use over the middle of the field who could potentially take a slant for a big gain. I would love to see a ton of that in this game. But I know you're kind of coming up on your time limit soon, so I want to talk about the defense real quick before we wrap things up. So the Bills offense, obviously is dangerous because of Josh Allen. They don't really have what you would call elite weapons. Stephon Diggs is really the only guy that like scares you. Dawson Knox is fine. Cole Beasley's okay. Emmanuel Sanders, fine. But Diggs is really the only one that's the Chiefs have actually had success covering Diggs in the past with their corners. Snead and Ward both match up well against Diggs. And I'm pretty sure Diggs had a couple of plays against the Chiefs in the Week 5 game. But again, Dan Sorensen, this defense was a mess. Steve Spagnuolo couldn't get his guys to learn his defense. A lot of guys out of place. I don't think we'll see a ton of huge plays from Diggs if the Chiefs did what they did in last year's playoffs as opposed to Week 5.
Yeah, and L'Jarius Sneed had possibly his worst game as a professional against the Bills in Week 5. But we seem to forget that last year, with the same weapons in the playoffs, our secondary shut them down. Like, we seem to forget that about a year ago, and I get it, these are two different teams, the Chiefs defense completely shut them down. Like, Stephon Diggs is really the only guy that concerns me. I think that if Dan Sorensen wasn't in deep coverage, Dawson Knox wouldn't even be a thought in my mind. He really wouldn't. So I think the Chiefs defense is going to do enough, and I really do think that Josh Allen is going to have trouble at times to get things going.
Well, how confident are you in this pass rush? Because I think they're going to be huge. Obviously, you want the guys to cover well and you want the linebackers to do well because no level the defense really performed well on the last time these guys played. But I think we have enough confidence in the secondary and the linebackers, Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, Snead, Thornhill's back there now to Dan. I'm confident about them, but you really need the pass rush to step up in this game. Not that the pass rush has been playing bad lately or anything like that, but
they need to take it up.
Yes, they need to take it up. And Melvin Ingram is a guy I look at. They acquired him for this game. This is why they acquired him. Also in Week 1, when the Steelers upset the Bills, Melvin Ingram was a huge factor in that game. He destroyed the Bills' offensive line almost single-handedly. He needs to have a big game. Chris Jones, I'm sure he's hungry because he didn't get to participate in the last Bills game. So, pass rush, where are you? Frank Clark, where are you?
This might be a Frank Clark statement game, hopefully. Eventually.
You know what this is going to be? This is going to be a Frank Clark coverage sack and garbage time game, and everyone goes,
sir.
There's playoff Clark.
Playoff Clark, as long as we're winning these games, he's playoff Clark. But honestly, I think our pass rush has not been bad, but like you said, they could definitely improve. The Bills pass rush, for whatever reason, they get to the quarterback. They apply pressure. They just can't sack the quarterback, which is kind of weird. But the Chiefs.
Well, that's kind of us too. We don't get a ton. We don't hit home a lot, but our pressures had been up way higher ever since Melvin Ingram joined the squad. And I was actually going to bring up something about that too, because Matt Verderam from Arrowhead Addict, I listened to the Arrowhead Addict podcast, and he had an interesting stat that in games where Josh Allen is sacked 3 times or more, the Bills are 1-4. So I would love to see the Chiefs hit home in this game and make that 1-5.
I think the pass rush is definitely going to be a big thing. I think Melvin Ingram has already kind of had a legendary impact on this team.
Yeah.
If he came out in this game and had 1.5 sacks and made a big time play down the stretch, I will start the jersey retirement myself. This could be a big Melvin Ingram game, and I think Chris Jones is going to have some impact on this game for sure. And I don't see anyone on that Bills offensive line that the Chiefs can't handle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, the Bills have some guys on the offensive line, but I don't think, and they have old friend Mitch Morse too, who's a great center, but I don't think they're what you would call elite. They also don't run the ball all that much. I know they've ran the ball a little bit more towards the end of the season and everything like that, but they just aren't a team that's known for running the ball. And I think that could hurt them in this game, because I think something that you have to consider in the postseason is which team runs the ball better. And I think the Chiefs with McKinnon is a better rushing attack than the Bills with Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary, again, he's had a nice season down the stretch, but I don't think this is the type of game where Devin Singletary is the reason the Bills win.
If that's the reason, I'm going to just say this right now. If Devin Singletary is the reason why we lose, I'd be content with that. Like, that sounds crazy, but if you stop Josh Allen and Devin Singletary is the one to beat you, I would feel some comfort knowing that you just did what you could and it didn't work out. I don't think that's what's going to happen in this game. I think the Chiefs are going to find a way to crawl back. They might get down, but they're sure as hell not out of it. The pass rush is going to be big. I think Willie Gay is going to be huge in this game. And then offensively, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to continue to be one of the best playoff quarterbacks we've seen, not named Tom Brady. He's got a 7-2 record. He's been starting in the league like 4 years. Like, the fact that he has just been so dynamic in the playoffs, it's unbelievable. And if you think that he's not going to come up in this game and show up and play his best football, I don't know what to tell you. This is the moment that this Chiefs team lives for, and specifically Patrick Mahomes. And I think the Chiefs are going to win and hopefully host an AFC Championship game.
Yeah, well, this needs to be a Mahomes game, because if you think the Allen over Mahomes talk is bad now, if Allen wins this game, you're never going to hear the end of it. So, and I'm sure Patrick Mahomes has heard it too, and I'm sure he's fired up for this game. And I've hyped up that Patrick Mahomes factor all week. You guys, Chiefs fans, you have Patrick Mahomes, so that should give you confidence in this game. That's one of the biggest reasons that I'm confident in this game, is because I don't think Patrick Mahomes really loses games like these.
No, he doesn't. Nothing would lead you to believe that in a playoff game at home, he's not going to get it done unless it's Tom Brady. Like, you need great quarterback play in the playoffs to win.
Well, and if you're Tom Brady too, you also need help from the refs to beat Mahomes. Let's just be honest.
Your defense, like the defense is one thing too. Like,
sure. Remember, in 2018, Mahomes was this close to toppling Brady with one of the worst defenses in NFL history.
How we even had a shot in that game is just Mahomes magic. I don't even know what to tell you. But Josh, I appreciate you having me on. I think this was a very good conversation. Hopefully I get out of here at 8:10. We can record something for me.
Well, I know you have to go real quick, but let me just get a score prediction from you.
Sure thing.
What's your score prediction?
I'm going to go Chiefs 41, Bills 35. And the reason I'm saying that, I think the Chiefs are going to get a late touchdown from someone on that offense. And the Chiefs defense is going to get just enough stops to win this game.
Yeah, awesome. My score prediction is 40-27. I think the Chiefs will pull away real late. It'll be close for most of the game, but the Chiefs in the fourth quarter, they get a touchdown that makes you feel really good towards the end, and they move on to the AFC Championship game. But Michael, I know you got to run, so thanks for joining me. But before I end it, go ahead and let the fans know where they can find you on social media and all your content.
You guys can find me on Twitter. That is at KC Sports Report. You can find me on Instagram. That is KC_Sports Report. Obviously, check me out on YouTube. That is KC Sports Report. And yeah, I had a really good time today, and hoping for a Chiefs win this Sunday.
Me as well, and I'm sure everyone watching is too. So for those of you that are still watching, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, as well as all of Michael's work that I'll leave in the description. And we will see you in the next one.